I was pretty impressed the other night because the Kilo Moana, quite a big vessel, I was calling him to see what his intentions were, just not getting any answer on VHF, although we were relatively close. But then I realised that he had anyway altered course to go astern of us. Well, it's 6 o'clock in the morning on Friday, just before dawn. First light has just started up, and I was woken up by a massive beeping of instruments in the chart table, telling me when I got there. I thought it was an AIS alarm, although it was coming on 2 instruments, but it was coming from a couple of different things, telling me that basically no instrument information down below. Fortunately, when I came up, the autopilot up here is still working. Wind, the depth, the speed are all working fine, and the plotter up here also has the information that in fact is being relayed down to the plotter down below. Anyway, so 1300 Zulu, that's 7 hours off, that's 6 in the morning, coming up towards dawn. And we've got a lack of information down at the chart table. Thank goodness everything up here is working, and we're still under control up here. All very concerning though. Why on earth has that suddenly happened? No sign of the sun yet. It's 25 past 6. Must be getting pretty close, but there is a little bit of cloud on the horizon there. So 6:25, sunrise is around now, pretty soon. I always love seeing the moon up high as dawn is breaking. I mean, before dawn it was so bright and noticeable, and now you really have to look for it. Still looking for the sun itself to rise in a fairly dramatic dawn there, and finally a slight red glow through the grey cloud on the horizon. Lovely gentle sailing today, going quite well in about 12-13 knots of east-northeast wind, making good speed, and despite the instruments at the chart table not working, that's fine because they're working up on top. Noticing the odd squid now, and a screw. And I know where that's from. It's from a guide that brings the furling line, that grey and white deck line that you can see there. It's led up to the bow where the furler is for the Genoa, and one of those leads has come apart. I saw that a day or so back and wondered where the screw was, and now I know. The sky is almost completely cleared up now. Just a few little clouds, almost nothing. Maybe not even 10%, maybe 5% now. I thought I'd have a quick look behind the instrument panel here up in the cockpit. For some reason the messages are not getting down to the chart table. Hopefully there might just be a disconnected wire that I can quickly put back in place and get the messaging back down below. Well, I'm not actually seeing anything wrong back here. Everything is looking pretty well connected. No obvious problem. But what I am going to do, because I've got a lot of noise on the radio for some reason, I'm going to put some chokes on these wires back here in the hope that maybe when I use the radio next I won't hear quite so much noise. And then I'll put this panel back again and look down below. I'm not seeing any problem here. I've found a few different chokes or ferrites to go on the cables. They're different kinds, of course, depending on the situation. And here I've found 3 different ones. This one here, you obviously have to put on the wire as you're installing it, so that's no good to me. And this one here is perfect. It's got the small hole down the middle, and you open it and clip it around the wire. This is a similar one, obviously meant for more wires, although you can wrap the wire around this, and again it unclips and clips on, so pretty easy to use. At the moment I've found that 2 of these instruments have ferrites already on them, so I'm just going to put this little one on the remaining one that doesn't seem to have any on it. And in the meantime, enjoying the sailing. We're going so well. We've got wind, it's increased a little bit from 12, 13 to about 14, maybe 15 knots now. But we've got bright sun, mostly blue sky, a little bit hazy, but not bad. And we're just going so well. A little bit rocky, rolling about in the swell. But that apart, everything's really nice. And so the next job is to have a look, see if I can find the cable for my mic. The mic that I've been using on the radio has meant that I've basically just not been heard by anyone. I'm just not getting out. There's no power coming out through the radio. And that looks as though it's a mic problem. So I'm looking for the cable that connects another mic to the radio. And if I can find that, then I should be able to get out again and resume my radio chats that I very much enjoy having while I'm underway. So there we go, pretty easy. Unclipped it, put it on the what is actually the speed instrument. Didn't have a ferrite on the data cable there, so I've just put that in place. So that's good. So now I'm going to put this panel back together again and go down below. So there we go, all back together again. And now we'll have another look down below. I need to get my salad ready for this evening. It's really important to do that before it gets dark. It's so easy not to get started, but by the time sunset comes, it gets dark pretty quickly after that, and it's so much easier to get things done in the daylight. So we've still got full canvas, and depth, of course, that was the last depth, probably a fish. Well, I've opened up again down behind here, nothing obvious by way of loose connections. Everything looks perfectly tight. But interestingly, I put the fish finder display side by side with the normal plotter display, and I'm seeing an intermittent message coming from up in the cockpit from the plotter up there, which is the one that has the fish finder transducer connected to it. Because why should this be disappearing? And then suddenly it starts coming back again, just beginning now, look, and it will come down, and there we go. You see, it's got the proper display, and then that goes. So it's a very intermittent display that I'm getting down here. I think that's pretty relevant. I'll have to go back on top and look at the plotter connections again more carefully. And in fact, that got me nowhere. There was no sign of any problem behind the plotter up on top. But it was time for getting my evening meal together. So it was ham and eggs with onions, and then a very nice salad. In fact, enough lettuce for another night, I decided. So that was rather nice. Well, this is my view in the cockpit at the speed and the wind at 5 o'clock in the morning on Saturday the 13th of May. I've been up for the last hour busy checking on the activity in the Intertropical Convergence Zone, the ITCZ, to see where we should be heading to try to avoid the worst of it, and also making up my log and having a look at the moon. As a result of what I've been seeing has been happening, there's some nasty convection to the west of us down at 5 north. Going to be also hit by decreasing wind, and it's almost going to go down to nothing in the next few days. But I've changed our course slightly to head a little bit further east, in the hope that we'll avoid the worst of the nasty stuff that's down that way, down to the south of us, in the southwest in particular. Certainly west of 120 west looks particularly nasty, so it would be good to try and avoid that if I can. We'll get a little bit more sleep now, I think, and then we'll see how things turn up. Well, when I can get to it, this is what I'm looking at, to see where the convection is, where the nasty clouds are, the nasty weather in the ITCZ. And clearly, the stronger the colours, the more activity there is happening there. So really nasty squalls, lightning, possibly nasty stuff to try to avoid if at all possible. So we're just south of that 10-degree line, which is reasonably high up above all the activity at the moment. And then if we look down here, we can see the 120, minus 120, indicating it's 120 west as opposed to east. So we're basically in a nice area of it's clear of activity at the moment, but we're heading down south. And so clearly there is this nasty stuff to the south of us. And so what I'm trying to do is to head a little bit east of the 120 line, to avoid what seems to be happening to the west of it. But then clearly there's this developing area just south of 5 north, which we're a few days away from. A bit of a game, trying to avoid the worst of it. So avoiding nasty squalls if possible is always a nice thing to be able to do. So certainly keeping me busy. The other good news of today was this morning I heard a noise on deck. I was just about to make my coffee in the morning, heard some noise, went up on deck, found my topping lift, the line that holds my boom end up in place when the rod kicker, the gas rod kicker, isn't working. Well, fortunately at the moment that is working, but to have this long line swinging around on deck was clearly not good news. Luckily it was caught on a shroud, so I was able to retrieve it and stow it safely, but that was unexpected. At the same time, I was able to pick up a few flying fish and squid and throw them back towards the sea. And what else? I think that's probably about it for the moment. Oh yes, my coffee spilled a little bit. I opened a locker above the pot that had just come through, and something fell out of the locker onto the pot. So my coffee, I think I'm going to make another coffee very shortly. So that's today, Saturday, day 10. Events that are going on at the moment. I'm about to go and look for that radio microphone cable so that I can try to make some transmissions on the radio, because without a mic working, which it isn't at the moment, I can't transmit my voice. I can still email and get weather, grids and such like, because that doesn't depend on my microphone usage, so that's the good news. But I can't actually talk to anyone at the moment. I can hear them, but I can't talk. I'm missing my radio chats. Well, here's the very unhappy looking mic that I had been using, which, as you can see, the curly cord has been getting worse and worse. So it's not too surprising that it seems to have given up the ghost and just won't let me transmit anymore when I'm using it. And I have got this rather nice headset, but now that I've found the cable joining the headset to the radio, I'm looking forward to being able to transmit again. So we'll see how that works out. Should give me a good transmission, and definitely I'll be back on the radio now, which is excellent. Very, very hazy today. Humidity is noticeable. Obviously getting near to sunset. About another hour and a half maybe. Very hazy sky. Here comes a swell. Coming pretty well from the northeast. There's supposed to be a southerly swell, but I really have trouble seeing it. Well, we're headed south, so this swell is clearly from the northeast. You can really see how the high humidity has affected the sky. It's so hazy. The sun isn't that close to the horizon, but it's already looking rather orange and quite different from the clear skies of the couple of days ago. We're getting closer and closer, of course, to the ITCZ, where things will probably get quite interesting.